Tonight, Gothics describes apologetics.
We're all just babbling. Blah, blah, blah.
Steve deals with that annoying kid at the cinema.
Take your child, strap him down to a rock, get a knife, plunge it into their heart, kill him.
And I become an agnostic.
I think I believe, but I don't really know.
Why hello, my fellow apes.
And welcome back to Low Fruit, where we go rummaging in the dirt for the worst possible arguments, and we're pretty adept at finding them at this point.
We are indeed. We're back today with a video from Gothics, a fresh video, just released a couple of days ago.
Weeks.
Weeks, was it?
It was 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's fine.
Just released a couple of weeks ago, and what she's responding to is a tweet from an anonymous atheist, quite literally an anonymous
quite literally
atheist.
the anonymous atheist, yeah.
And well, let's give them a recap of the tweet.
Well, essentially the brief context of it is, because she spends a third of the video just reading these tweets out, is someone's disappointed Ayaan Hirsi Ali has become a Christian because they think that being an atheist is more logical than being a Christian. However, in their final position, they would choose to hang out with a Christian over atheists because most atheists are woke. Which, funny enough, is pretty much what Ayaan has done. Is she prefers to hang out with Christians because atheists are too woke.
And that's why she hasn't mentioned anything about Jesus' resurrection, anything about any miracles, anything really Christian at all. It's just a political designator for her. Something else to be said is that what the person is expressing is that saying that you're disappointed because someone's converted to a religion by their lights isn't a problem. Because the Christian's going to say the same thing. They're disappointed that somebody doesn't believe like they do, because it's an important belief. It's an important thing in one's life. So they're just reacting to people going, how dare you be be upset with the fact that Ayaan is no longer an atheist, and they're giving their perspective.
Yep. And so Gothics has decided that she has things to say on this topic, specifically regarding whether it is more logical. So let's hear what she has to say.
Given the choice to hang out with one or two strangers and all I knew about them was that one was an atheist and the other was a Christian, I choose to hang out with the Christian. Now, why is that?
The majority of atheists you know are not woke. That's just not true. However, those that are woke will tend to be atheists because atheists score again and again on the progressive scale at the highest.
It's all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs.
Precisely.
Argument, essentially.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And why is it that you tend to get along with Christians more?
Because Christians are more conservative, and they're more conservative.
This isn't hard to figure out.
This has been easy so far. I don't know why we need the exaggerated.
But let's get to the meat and potatoes of this particular post, what I really wanted to talk about. This guy is claiming that atheism is more rational and logical than theism.
You sure about that? You sure about that? That's why? You sure about that?
My goodness, if I had a quarter for every time a viewer of mine said, I'm disappointed in you. You know, I thought you were so logical. I thought you were so reasonable. And now you believe in God. If I had a quarter for every time I heard that, boo-boo, I would be doing laundry for free. Okay?
Oh, that was a joke!
That is something that baffles me, because you mean to tell me that prior to that, you were coming to my channel for truth. Wow, this girl has so much wisdom. She's so wise. Where is she getting this information from? The second I talk about God, oh no. Oh, no.
I can believe that. People can agree with you on one or two things and then disagree with you on another.
Who the fuck is coming here for wisdom?
Well, there's that. But let's say someone is anti-woke and they watch her for anti-woke stuff.
The anti-woke crowd, they're just like, someone will stand up and say something like, actually, a woman is an adult human female, and they go, wise. They've thought about the positions. Look at them interacting with their opposition. Look at the literature that they gave. Hey, look, that character, they didn't need to reveal that they're gay in this film. Wise. That's wise.
Wisdom comes in many forms at very low level. And, you know, just because you start in there doesn't mean it's not a level of wisdom.
And the irony of that is it actually takes more faith to believe there is no God than there is to believe that there is a God.
Oh, Frank Turek? Really?
Hang on. I didn't eye roll hard enough. Need the whole head to move with it.
Wisdom right there. That was wisdom.
Need the whole head
Unbelievable.
goes. Because, like, the eyes rolling isn't enough with that
But
statement.
the whole
head needs to roll with the eyes.
God.
How many times have we heard that now?
Too many.
And it's a misunderstanding of what the word faith is, which is amazing for someone so wise. You'd think
So
she'd know
wise.
what the word faith means. What does the word faith mean, Steve?
Belief without sufficient evidence.
Belief without sufficient evidence.
Lean
yeah.
not on your own understanding, as the Bible
So-
says. Lean on what's just told to you. Wisdom.
So to have faith, to not believe in a God that hasn't been demonstrated, doesn't really work.
Consider this. What is logic? What is reason? Can I look under a microscope and find logic and reason?
No.
Yeah, no. That's not how that works. Logic is analytical. You're describing things about the world. So no, you're not going to find it underneath. You're not going to like pick up a rock and go, "Ooh, there's the law of non-contradiction." That's not how it works.
No, but she's not saying
which is her
that,
point. Which is her point.
position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Logic and reason are both immaterial things. Even though I can't physically see it or touch it or taste it or smell it, it's still at work.
What does she mean by at work? Like, is the number 3 at work? Is a married bachelor at work?
This is kind of the problem, isn't it? Is what we have when we say like the laws of logic.
Yeah.
Is this is us describing what appear to be facts about reality. They are not a thing that exists by themselves. We don't discover the laws of logic as an actual thing. Is we created a description of what we have seen.
And if you turn to those that actually are wise, professional philosophers, you will find that this is one of the many topics where they're undecided. There's people that believe all sorts of things, and none of them are going to come at you, or almost none of them are going to come at you with incredible confidence. So some of them, such as I would put myself in favour of this camp, would be Humean. They would say there are no laws in the universe, or it seems unlikely. Rather, what's happening is we're describing patterns in the universe, and those patterns that come up a lot and don't seem to be broken, we describe them as laws. Mm-hmm. That's what laws are. Doesn't say that they exist out there in some platonic form or anything like that. Whereas other people will say other things, but like it's only theists that are out there going, it's a law that's out there by God.
Yeah, so when they conflate the word law in that sense as to be one that is like legislation.
Yeah, like God's up there and he goes, I'm going to write some legislation as of
how the
tomorrow
will behave. Yeah.
The law of non-contradiction is true.
Yeah.
Likewise, I wouldn't be able to use the scientific method in order to discover logic, because in order for me to even do science, I have to first assume that I'm behaving logically. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, epistemology
these are-
comes before science.
Yeah, like base assumptions of how things work, yes.
Yep, you need an epistemic framework before you can do science. Yep.
Which is where then presupps jump in and say, well, you presuppose this, so it's
Listen,
okay for us to presuppose.
Yeah, they're like this. They're like, are you presupposing that there's, an external world? And you go, yeah, I'm going to have to make that very bare assumption. And they go, okay, in which case I'm going to presuppose inherited sin.
And that the world was created.
And the world was created.
Yeah.
And I'm going to presuppose that morality is put in God's words. And I'm going to presuppose... In fact, if you're going to presuppose a very small cost in terms of ontology, I'm going to presuppose everything. And then I'm going to tell you...
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, so I recognise that we all have to presuppose this thing. And because that is true, I'm going to presuppose a whole bunch of other stuff as well.
Yep. That's presupp. I tell you, this better not be presupp. This better not be presupp.
I don't know, I haven't watched this one.
The laws of logic, we didn't discover it. It was already there. Where did it come from? This is something that atheism cannot explain.
Well, first of all, prove that it was already there and that it is there. Prove to us that these are
and that it came from something.
And that it came from something. Like, all of this is just... It's so wise. It's so wise. It's just on the spot. You just assert it as true.
We've just got...
And that's it.
We've essentially just got what we were talking about. She has presupposed that it has come from God.
Yeah.
Why?
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 What makes you think that you're going to want to, if we go back to God and we say, why is there some God rather than no God? You're going to ground it in necessity. You're going to say, because it couldn't have been otherwise. That's what you're going to say. Well, why not say that about the laws of logic? Why not say that about something that isn't also intelligent and, contradictory in its qualities? Like
the thing that I get with these is I actually almost like it when they do this though, because it means a lot of the normal arguments they can no longer use. Because if God created logic, if logic comes from God, then God can do things that are illogical.
Yes.
Which means all of those arguments of when we say, well, can God create a rock he can't lift?
Yes.
The normal argument is, well, that's not logically possible. Well, God created logic, so he should be able to do things that are illogical.
You're right. If your view is presupposing that if you use logic, you presuppose God, then you are by definition presupposing your conclusion before you provide any argument that uses logic, which is all your arguments.
Yeah.
Consequently, they're just fluff.
Yes.
Just start with your presupposition. That's it.
You might as well
By the way,
discard all of your arguments and just come to me with just go, God exists.
And that's it. By the way, this is why William Lane Craig, like a Christian philosopher, and why so many other Christians laugh at presuppositionalism. It's pathetic. And yet lay people are all over it, calling it wisdom.
It's why we call him Low Bar Bill. He says he will lower the bar so that he'll always have God.
Yep, that's it.
And that even if all the evidence points otherwise, he'll still believe. It's like, well, what's the point in you ever arguing anything with anyone then?
Mm-hmm.
You're already coming in bad faith, essentially, because it doesn't matter what anyone says, it's never going to convince you.
In the same way a computer has to be programmed in order to function correctly, we have to be programmed with the laws of logic in order for us to behave logically.
Notice the teleological analogy? She uses something such as a computer, which we know needs to be programmed so that she can draw the...
We use a man-made creation as analogy to nature.
And with humans, like with our ability to reason and stuff, it comes from the fact that we do something that machines don't do. What is it? Fuck. Yeah, they don't fuck. Evolution by natural selection is not involved.
But can I also potentially highlight here? If we were all built on this divinely given logic, why do we all reach different conclusions?
Oh, it's almost like either one, the creator's a bit naff, and they don't want to say that. Or two, he's created us sick and commanded us to be well. Not sure they want to say that, but
So if we're just going to say that our ability to reason is just a result of evolution, then there's no reason for you guys to listen to anything that I have to say, and there's no reason for me to take anything this person on Twitter has to say. We're all just babbling. Blah, blah, blah.
You're definitely babbling. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, no, that's not true. Like, how about you demonstrate it? Why is it, if evolution by natural selection is true, and it is, why is it that the result of this is that nothing is truth?
It's quite easy to notice.
Explain it. Give us C.S. Lewis. We're waiting.
Let's give a very, very basic on the evolutionary sort of aspect for why our ability to reason things does come from that.
Yeah.
The tribe that notices they're all dying when they stick their heads in water are going to stop sticking their heads underwater.
Yeah. Because it's going to be selected against.
Yes.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that, because to say something like that, you really do have to have such a rudimentary understanding, if even that, of evolution by natural selection to make that kind of statement.
I only have what I consider to be a pretty rudimentary understanding of it.
I know, it's like, look, if you take evolution by natural selection, you're gonna get a couple of things that are like, okay, here's a humble pill you got to swallow, which as a Christian she shouldn't be ashamed of taking, right? The humble pill that she's going to have to take, the wisdom she's going to have to take, is that, look, all of your views do come through the prism of evolution by natural selection. And so while you have really good reason to think that on a macroscopic scale, a scale that you evolve to interact with, your intuitions and beliefs are likely to be true, when it comes to making inferences about, I don't know, the universe and where the laws of logic come from, your intuitions are probably it's not only probably, it's been demonstrated that our intuitions are not good at this. That's why quantum mechanics is so difficult for us to understand. It's why the sciences, as they reach out further away from the areas that we evolved and adapted to deal with, it's why our brains struggle with this, and even with the logic, let alone with, you're like retrocausation and things like that. None of this is intuitive to us at all.
No.
That's why you've got that famous saying, which is, if you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't
really
understand quantum mechanics. It's just bizarre to me to think that evolution would select so randomly, so people would have completely different views, none of which are based on reality. It's absurd.
But it's also why it's really easy for us to cash out that why did a religion emerge? It was obviously useful.
Oh yeah.
But just being useful, though, doesn't speak to the truth of a thing. So one of the examples that I like to bring up, because I brought it up in one of my mythology videos that I did on my channel, was the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis, yeah? One of the sort of legends about this is that if you're outside on the night while the Aurora Borealis is glowing, your soul is going to be taken away by Odin and your body left in the snow. So, that's a bit of mythology that has emerged from things that they have witnessed, which is on a particular night, people outside tend to be left for dead.
Yep.
Why are they actually left dead?
They would have died in the cold.
It's a really bloody cold night that this thing tends to come out. The skies are clear. So what they're actually noticing is people are dying of the cold, but that's not what makes it into the religion, because they don't actually understand the mechanics behind it. Is that something that they've come through a reasonable position to? They already accept gods and, Odin, Valkyries, and magic, essentially. So if they've already accepted that, a reasonable conclusion to come to with those accepted positions is that your soul is being stolen by Odin.
Yeah.
Is that true? No.
It's not true, and you're right. This is what religions do. Jordan Peterson's expressed it this way: religions tend to be right in pattern but wrong in detail.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's what's going on there. It's right in pattern. It's getting certain things right. But here's the thing: all of the patterns, even though they're wrong, they're still based on very basic premises. Like no religion denies the law of excluded middle, and basically no human being does. You have to find some serious philosophy to get there, and even then they're not treated particularly well. And the reason for this is that obviously it's an advantage to have this view. Why? Because it's true. That's why. That's the most probable thing. But you could respond by going, well, you're using logic to defeat logic. And it's like, yeah, we're all stuck in this. Like, precepts go, here's some really interesting, difficult topics. Here's the Agrippan trilemma. You can't deal with it. And I'm like, I know, but you can't either.
Just because you added a thing into it doesn't mean you can actually demonstrate it.
No.
Nothing would make any sense, because it would just be my laws of logic versus your laws of logic versus your laws of logic, which means no one would be able to communicate.
No. Have you ever met anyone that has different laws of logic to you?
No.
Why?
Because, well, as I said earlier, they're essentially agreed upon observations of the universe.
Yeah. She's just demonstrated that her view's wrong. She said, look, here is an entailment of your belief, and she's stating something that's not true. No one believes this.
Yeah, so what we tend to have in this is she would normally sit there arguing this about morality. That we'll, without God we have our all internal morality. That doesn't, you can't, just because that applies to one thing doesn't mean you can apply it to everything else.
It doesn't even apply to morality.
I know, yeah. But just let's grant that for the moment. Just because that might be true doesn't mean you can then apply that to laws of logic. If laws of logic are, as she said, an intangible thing that isn't within us, it's a description of the universe, why would that entail that we'd all have different positions on it? What?
Show your reasoning, please.
And you can look up the laws of logic online. I'm not going to get into that in this particular video, but...
Well, that's convenient.
It's yet another... You can look at it somewhere else. We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it later. Like, if you
How
looked
many
it up,
of those do we get?
If she gave the laws of logic to her audience, it would be clear to them
got
that
things.
no one's going to think differently.
How long would it take for you to just put a screenshot of the laws of logic as described on the screen right now?
Isn't there like 3 of them?
I'll tell you what, should we do it?
Let's do it. Let's put the laws of logic on screen, okay? There you go, done.
All that to say, he is, without even realizing it, stealing from God in order to make his argument.
You brought me fucking priests up again, Reese.
No, the audience did. They said they wanted more Gothics.
Fuck you.
But let's continue a little bit more. As a Christian, I would imagine you would feel a great deal of disappointment if a high-profile Christian you admired suddenly announced that they had lost their faith and turned atheist. No, it wouldn't disappoint me. It would worry me. I believe there is more after our time here on earth is up. And I believe that some people are not going to make it into the kingdom of heaven.
But why would you be worried about that?
Would you be disappointed by the fact that they're not going to get to heaven?
Well, there's that. Surely
disappointed
you are
by the
disappointed.
fact that they're going to go to hell?
But why?
If you think it's because of their own dealings that they're going there, would you be disappointed in them for going there?
She said last time that atheists can be good people even without God.
Yeah.
So why would she be worried that they're not going to heaven?
Oh, it's because Christianity, despite all of the love, it's because you have to believe these insane propositions in order to be considered good enough for heaven.
Right.
Oh, wow. Would you look at that? God doesn't judge us on the content of our character, but on the conviction of our beliefs.
I'll still argue, it's not even conviction. Conviction basically describes having a strong belief in something.
Yeah.
So as long as you believe somewhat. So an agnostic who I think I believe, but I don't really know, they'd get into heaven.
Yep. But an earnest atheist.
But an earnest atheist
I'm
who's
sorry.
like, I'm really not convinced.
I really am not convinced.
But
It's bullshit.
Well, the worst part is obviously that I think I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You can go rape someone, kill some, whatever, still goes to heaven, right? They're fine.
Yep.
Earnest atheist that doesn't do those things, they're not going to heaven.
You're
and that's
so
what she's worried
made,
about.
as Blaise Pascal put it, as not to believe. And
Yeah.
so you are the forsaken.
But
anyway, yeah.
if God is all good, and she said, I'm pretty sure she sort of,
Yeah.
God is good, then surely he would judge us on our actions and not on our beliefs.
What you're getting at here is that you're trying to use the laws of logic in a consistent way.
So it's not so much a disappointment. It's let me pray for this person and hopefully God softens their heart to bring them back to the kingdom. That's what I'm thinking about.
First of all, she's needing God to bring them back to the kingdom, right? That is to say that they need God in order to bring them back into a state where God will treat them with love and decency, which is to say they cannot get back to God unless God wants them back, which means that they just... What is this?
Just like this. God needs to soften our hearts
Yeah.
to get back to the kingdom.
Mhm.
Why doesn't God soften their heart rather than exclude everyone that doesn't believe in them?
No.
Is God so egocentric and narcissistic
Yeah.
that
What is the first rule? What's the first rule? You will have no other God before me. Like that's it. That's straight up what's being said.
The entire principle of Christianity is the narcissism of one being.
Yeah. The second thing is that this is just wordplay. It's like it's not so much disappointment. Yes, it is. Like you're just wordplaying here. Like that person that made that tweet, they could just go, okay, it's not disappointment. I'm just saying it in this way. Like this is just
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? Is being worried doesn't exclude disappointment,
No.
and vice versa.
precisely.
I can be disappointed that you've got terrible arguments and worried that you'll convince more people to use said terrible arguments.
Or thinking maybe this person was never saved to begin with. Either way, it's not a good time because where essentially we believe that they're going to go to hell.
But why do you believe we're going to go to hell?
Hell.
You know, we can be good people.
This is hell. I mean, look.
Eternal punishment, fire and brimstone, for what? Not being convinced of a proposition.
It doesn't make any sense, man. But look, the more
We punish people less for worse crimes.
yes, but you see, the worst crime is non-belief. That's what the Christian is taught. The thing is, right? I deal with Christians that are into philosophy, and one of the things you'll notice with these Christians is that they lean quite heavily into annihilationism. Their problem is that scripturally, they're just not supported. Annihilationism is poor, by my lights, compared to the doctrine of eternal torment.
But
And
I do find
most
it more
Christians-
consistent with a good God.
Of course,
at
that's
least.
why they do it. They realise by researching it and by looking into it, they realise that hell is monstrous. Bertrand Russell expressed this. He said that Jesus is worse than everything that came before and after because he brought hell. And hell is by definition the worst thing. It's an infinite. It's an infinite punishment for a finite crime.
You can kill someone and be out of jail in 20 years or whatever.
Or even if you serve the rest of your life, at least
Or
it's
even
70 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not believing
Yeah.
warrants a punishment of eternity.
And like, think about it. Think about what eternity would like.
Eternity.
Do it this way, right? Okay, picture what the last 10 years is in your mind. It's such a long time. Now increase it to 50 years. Now to 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. Don't you see the madness of this proposition and how there's no way that a good God would sign off at anything so monstrous?
But I will say, we're obviously essentially assuming what her definition of hell, because speaking to Justin, the way he defined hell to us was not being in the kingdom of God. So to him, hell was annihilation.
But he is one of these people that have done the research and he's spoken with people that are smart. Most Christians have what I think Gothics is.
Yes.
And
Well,
that
she
is-
described it as a place to go to.
Yeah, which
So
is a
therefore
place
it
to
is.
go to, and it's not you're isolated from God, it's eternal torment. Now, even if it's not eternal torment, all of these critiques are still having the same weight because it's an infinite torment.
Infinite
so if you
punishment
say, listen,
over,
eternal torment, you're going to get, say, 10 pain every single day, versus, like actually just isolated, but it is a miserable experience, so it's 1 pain. Times them both by the infinite. They're both infinite. So actually, all of the criticisms have equal weight, considering the monstrosity of this proposition.
Well, this is reminds me of when we had the conversation with those Christians from Oxford, where one lad said, essentially, the reason why the punishment is infinite is because God is an infinite being. So by not believing in him, you're doing harm to an infinite being.
Mhm.
But I would then argue that with a being so essentially infinitely large, the harm that we can do to it in our minuscule time frame is infinitely small to it.
Also, it's all powerful. What can you do?
What harm can I do to an all-powerful
If
being?
you can do any harm to an all-powerful being, then it's not the most
There's that as
powerful
well.
being, is it? The other thing is think about like if they applied that consistently. Like what would a court of law look like? They'd be like, listen, you're going to go to prison for 2 years for murdering that person, and you're going to go to prison for 50 years for murdering that person. And the reason being is that the autopsy revealed that that person only had 2 years left. We don't function this way, but we make up these ideas in order to justify God.
And we don't want that of anyone. I don't want that of anyone. So it's more of a worry than it is a disappointment. This person also mentioned that Christians view Christianity as inherently good. And I'm gonna just correct this individual. It's not that Christianity is inherently good, it's that God is our standard of good.
And you
by
wouldn't say that of Islam, would you? So Christianity is what's... This is word games again, Reese.
Yeah, it is. But I'll also just remind you here, is what she's saying is the standard of morality is belief in God.
Yeah, belief in God.
Because nothing in her moral system requires you to not murder, not rape, not have slaves, etc., etc.
Just do what God says.
Just
do what God
believe.
says.
Not even that. Really, other than believe.
Believe what God says is correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So when God decided to send plagues into Egypt to kill babies, to kill all of them, just believe that that's
kill all
right.
the firstborn.
Yeah, kill all the firstborn. Firstborn, like she said that she didn't like genocide of babies. An explicit edict to take babies by the feet and smash their head into rocks. God did it. God said it's okay. Moral.
If the stories of the Bible if the stories of the Bible are true, God is literally worse than Hitler.
You brought him up again.
Yes, I do. Because does God pass the Hitler test? No.
We're never going to get monetized, Reese. What are you doing?
I told you, he's really useful. But you know what I'm saying? Is if the stories of the Bible are true,
Do I know
God
what you're
has
saying?
commanded
Hitler
more
is really
genocides.
useful.
God has commanded so many genocides.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
personally, he's actually killed more than Hitler did.
oh yeah. Oh, for sure. And he's put lots of people in for eternal torment,
Yep.
which is always nice. Also, like, talking about morality and God being all loving and shit. So, you are, let's say, follically challenged.
Oh, you noticed?
Yeah. You're follically challenged. Now, I've just mocked you. Do you think that you could ask God to kill me and 42 other children? I'm not a child, but I am in the mind.
There'll be 41 other children.
41 other children. Maul us to death. We're stand still
With
so it
bears,
can happen. With 2 bears. Would that be moral?
Oh, absolutely. God said so.
Oh, good. If I came down to you and say you had a child and I went, listen, I just want to test you. Take your child, strap him down to a rock, get a knife, plunge it into their heart, kill him. You know, Binding of Isaac style. Mm-hmm. Is it just moral because I said it?
Oh, it's got to be.
And then it's moral when I go, actually, I changed my mind.
Oh, better not do that.
Yeah, that's good.
Well,
That's good. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a lawful killing, because
Mm-hmm.
God commanded it. And then if I'd carried on doing it after he changed his mind, it would have become murder, because it was no longer a commanded thing. So now it becomes an unlawful killing.
That's true, yeah.
So there's no differentiation between what was lawful and unlawful versus God said so.
God said so. I tell you what.
Morality's interesting, isn't
Oh,
it? When it's based on divine command.
Divine command theory is almost, it's almost bankrupt, intellectually, morally bankrupt, which is an irony. I mean, one of my favourites is, imagine that you're a cow, all right, during the conquest of Canaan.
Moo.
All right, very good. Please, everybody, let him know that was a really good, well done, right? I'm lost for words. Now,
We're getting into my role.
okay,
You said imagine.
all right, you're a cow during the conquest of Canaan.
Yeah.
You're just eating grass.
Yeah.
You just living your life, and then God says, right, guys, you're going to run in there. You're going to kill all of the men, all of the women, all of the children. Again, genocide of babies. Yay, well done, Gothics. And then the next thing they want to do is kill all of the cows and kill all of the livestock.
What do I do?
What the fuck did you do? Like, what's going on? But no, it's moral. It's all moral. It's all good. I really would love to sit down and read the Bible with Gothics. Like, just read some of these verses and see what she makes of them. I mean, she'd probably just go, you're reading it wrong.
Oh, God,
It's written
that
on
one.
your heart. Love thy neighbour.
It's written on my heart, and that's why I know that the Bible is a ton of bollocks.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, just before we do continue with this, I've just remembered, one of our most frequent comments last time was about the translation of thou shalt not kill, or rather, it should be thou shalt not murder.
That was true, yep.
And the funny thing that we sort of realised on this, though, is, the commandments, they're God's laws, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so, and murder is unlawful killing.
Yes.
Okay, so thou shalt not, or the law is, thou shalt not unlawfully kill.
Yes. Which
So-
is brilliant.
Yes, so what you've got is, it is illegal to unlawfully kill.
What would be the equivalent?
What
It would
an
be like,
amazing insight from God's law there.
Yeah, it's a tautology though. There's nothing being said there because it's not like God isn't against killing.
Well,
He commands it all the time.
well, that's the thing, isn't it? Is he defines what a lawful killing
It's
is.
just a lawful killing is one that he agrees with.
Yes,
Disagree. Yeah, a lawful killing
is one that
he
God agrees with.
and if he doesn't agree with it, it's murder. And there's no moral content.
There's no
here.
standard there, really.
There's nothing. There's nothing here at all.
So God is the standard of goodness. If you don't have God, if you don't know God, then your interpretation of evil and good is completely subjective.
So is yours. It's relative to what God says is good in that moment.
It's also subjective to the theist. How is it, for instance, that the church fathers interpreted God's words in a way that is completely contradictory, talking about the laws of logic, completely contradictory to the way that modern Christians do?
Well,
how is it that Aquinas said slavery is perfectly fine, that Augustine did? Like,
she has an interpretation of the Bible that allows her to educate us.
yeah. And yet, in Timothy, that's not the case.
It's not the case.
Like, I think St. Paul said, I will not suffer a woman teaching a man.
And what the various saints said about women in general, about what their position in society is. Like, clearly, it was all relative to their time, their cultures.
It's like it's subjective.
Yes. Don't ever get how this argument keeps coming up.
Because they don't think about it. They don't fucking read the Bible. They don't look it up. They just put a camera on and talk fucking shit at it.
Yeah. There is only one way to cash out, as far as I can see, only one way to cash out objective morality. And that is, when we talk objective, we're talking a goal. So goal-based morality.
Yeah.
So there are better and worse ways to achieve a goal. That's the only kind of objective morality I can see, but that's never what we're dealing with.
No.
What they're always saying is that objective morality is a divine command, which they then don't obey.
I've spoken with hundreds of atheists. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but I've spoken with a lot. And a lot of the times our conversations always end up at morality is relative. Morality is based on what each individual perceives as right and wrong.
You mean it's written on our hearts?
Yeah. That is precisely where it
Surely,
ends for Christians.
Yeah, if you say that morality is written on our hearts, which she has said, then you are saying that morality is subjective.
Yeah.
Because it's down to the individual's interpretation of it.
Because what was written on St. Paul's heart is not what's written on Gothic's heart. What was written on Aquinas' heart is not written on Gothic's heart.
No, and what she considers moral is not what I consider moral.
No.
So clearly there's some fucking difference going on here, isn't there?
But don't you see, once again, it's the presuppositional nonsense. It's, listen, how do you deal with morality? How does this work? And because a lot of atheists are going to just say, look, I don't really know. Or they're going to give her an answer that's unsatisfying to her. She thinks she can just by default fall onto her answer, which suffers all of the same problems, and worse, because you're assuming a grand ontology, and you're predicating your morality on divine dictatorship. God says it's moral, that's it. This isn't morality. It doesn't account for our moral intuitions. It doesn't account for historical differences over the years. It's a shit theory.
And I do want to ask, just before we continue, I thought this video was about, is it more logical or more rational?
Mm-hmm.
So far we've had presup followed by morality.
Yep.
Neither of which really deal with whether something is more rational to believe.
This is the irony, though. They always go, listen, let's talk about rationality. And then they go, I just assume all my positions.
Also, you're a bad person.
I want you guys to think of this for a second. If you're someone who truly believes that morality is relative, meaning that morality and your sense of right and wrong can depend on society, or it can depend on culture, it can depend on your own upbringing, right?
Or evolution.
It literally does depend on those things. The people in Japan have different assumptions about right and wrong over people in England.
Yep.
People in England have different assumptions of right and wrong over people in Zimbabwe, who have different assumptions about right and wrong over people in China.
And worse than that, people in England have different views about what's right and wrong compared to people in England 50 years ago.
Yeah. So
let alone 200 years ago.
So you've got countries and cultures.
Yeah.
We've just said about time, upbringing, right? Well, people raised as Christian versus Muslims in those countries at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
They have different positions on morality.
So now, we're presented with an interesting fact, okay?
What describes reality?
A fact. End off. It's a fact that morality changes depending on certain deterministic factors. It's a fact. End off. Now, how do we make sense of this data? How is it we make sense of contradictory propositions being held with reverence in the same communities, and yet 100 years on it's completely reversed? How do we make sense of this data? Now, there's loads of ways that you can assess this data. I look at it and I go, look, I think morality is evolved software. I'm not in the business of telling you what you ought to do or what's right or wrong, just as a category statement. I'm in the business of describing what morality is, and when I know what your values are, then I can start talking about what you should do, because I have your oughts, therefore I can give you an ought. Outside of that, I can't. What does the theist do? they still insist, no, it's all objective. It's just that the church fathers got it completely wrong. What, is God just terrible at communicating? Is he that bad at communicating? Or is the church fathers, were they just so moronic in their interpretation? Because they come with receipts. When they say women are beneath men, they come with receipts. They show you in Genesis precisely why they have their view. They quote scripture, and yet what do? It's written on my heart. Like, it's not good enough.
Can I be almost... I find this to be probably a really boring way to say what morality is, but I think it's probably the most accurate. It's a combination of innate evolved responses and socially ingrained emotional responses.
I can understand that. I think the way I describe it is
Because-
it's social software.
Yeah, but so I'm saying is you've got it from... It can be ingrained by society teaching you certain things,
Oh, yes.
combined with the software that is ingrained from us from evolution.
Yes,
right?
that's what it is.
It's a combination of those two things that create emotional responses to certain situations.
And the situations themselves play a role. So, for instance, sociology has shown across the board that when you have a situation where there's lots of little tribes fighting each other, societies select for masculine traits. They select for more violent cultures. That's not to say that masculinity is violence, it's to say that it is associated more with that. And they know that. She's been red-pilled. She knows what this is, right? Likewise, when you have a cosmopolitan state, when you have a situation where the competition is intra, what happens then is you select for feminine traits. And right now, what's happening in our society? Well, people have nukes and we're very big communities, so we want feminine traits. You don't want some trigger-happy, derpy alpha sat there deciding to start wars. Morality changes by context. The fact that you don't like it, tough. Get fucking over it.
What you've got is a book that tells you one thing, and what we're working off is looking at what we see and witness in reality.
Mhm.
That's the big difference.
Yep.
Is you've almost got blinders on. You're not observing the world around you.
Okay, just one more go at this, right?
Big section this.
I know, but it's like someone comes across and they go, look, here's some incredible data to show that morality is at least contingent upon something quite extreme, right? It's very contingent. And the response is, no, don't worry, your heart, your intuitions have got it right, all of humanity's got it wrong. Humble. So humble.
That's what you believe. I want you to think of the most heinous thing, the most evil thing that someone could ever do to you, the most evil thing you can imagine.
Send them to hell.
Hell. It's hell. Absolutely.
That's probably that is
Okay,
the most
so
heinous.
I've got hell in my mind.
We've got hell in our mind. Okay.
I want you to think of that. And then I want you to imagine that happens to you. All right? Imagine it happens to you. They're not wrong.
You believe that. You believe that someone being God sending people to hell is not wrong to do so.
Mm-hmm. You think it's perfectly fine. You believe God doing any atrocity.
And why do you
is
believe that
perfectly
that's fine? Because your internal intuitions say that?
But they don't. This is the thing. Her intuitions don't tell her that. No one has that intuition.
No. The ones that were taught to her.
But even then, like, I really strongly doubt Gothics would be happy with you and I being tortured forever. I strongly doubt that. I don't think evil people like that exist in the world, right? Tortured forever because you're not convinced of a proposition. Like, I don't think she's convinced of that. So what happens...
I don't know. You can get people that will think that just by allowing yourself to dehumanize others.
Yeah, but infinite torture. Infinite misery.
She has to believe that's a good thing.
But this is the thing she does. Because God has said that that's correct,
yeah.
She has to believe it's right.
So,
but what I'm saying is that surely a Christian can sit down and when they reflect on this seriously, realise that their intuition is grotesquely misaligned with the prospect of hell. And this is why I think the more Christians think about it, such as Christian philosophers,
they have to go to
the more they go to annihilationism,
yes.
because they know that hell is just insane. It's the most disgusting proposition anyone has ever espoused.
Yeah.
It's horrendous.
And she has been taught to believe that it is a good thing.
That's a good thing, yeah. It's like a poison.
It's incredible that she can say that, though. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, just think about this horrible thing. Well, you believe that's an okay thing to do. It's like, yeah, we're talking about hell.
Yeah.
Hell is a horrific thing, and you believe it is an okay thing to send people to.
It's not bad. It's just their opinion. It's their subjective moral standards.
Like God's own opinion on things.
So, why is it we have the moral intuition to love our neighbour? Evolution by natural selection has selected for us to love our neighbour. That's what a social species does. Okay?
Work together with your kin.
So is it your opinion?
Yeah.
It's not your opinion. You are built this way. You evolved this way. This is something that's not just like, oh, I'm going to change my opinion on a flick of a finger. You can't do that. And yet her morality doesn't even have that. It doesn't even have a bedrock. It's just God saying it's right, it's wrong.
And here's another thing. The innate ability to have empathy for your fellow human being is so common and so strong. We actually have ways to describe people that don't have that.
Psychopathic,
sociopathic, these sort of things. Because that is such a rarity in comparison that we need something to define when it arises.
Yep.
The other thing about morality is it's not just individually based, is it? It's community based.
Yeah.
We, obviously with the laws of England, the laws of the US, we don't all agree, but the laws arise out of the moral sense of the community in general.
Yes.
And that's another reason why laws change over time as well. The moral sense of the community has changed. Mm-hmm. At one time, it was perfectly legal, required even, to stone gays to death. Mm-hmm. Moral sensibilities changed.
At one point, women were not allowed to teach men because of the Bible. It changed.
Yes.
At one point, slavery was okay. It changed.
Yes.
And
all of these things, all of these moral positions make their way into law.
And not everyone, as you said, holds those positions.
Nice.
For instance, it's illegal to have sex work. I'm okay with it. I actually think it would be better if that was okay, because it means that those sex workers would be entitled to more rights and more of a legal defence. And
these
governmental
things,
support.
Well, health as well, just generally.
Same on drugs. I think that Portugal's model is pretty damn healthy. It's a good way to go, and the statistics show it. My society doesn't agree with me. What do? Okay, I have to just roll with it.
Well, you have to try and convince people.
That's what you do. That's all you've got. That's how it works.
And things go back and forth, obviously, like we've seen with the abortion rights in the US lately.
Yep.
And now there's going to be a big fight to change it back the other way again.
Yep.
It's just how groups of people function, essentially. I feel like this is so obvious that it's hard to find the words to say it,
I think that's what surprises me. Is this stuff is very obvious, and at least to me, maybe I'm wrong. If you sit down and you reflect upon this, I don't understand how someone like Gothix can get on a camera and say such tripe so confidently. I don't really know what's going on.
You'd think you'd almost catch it as you're saying it, wouldn't you?
I think so, yeah. It's a bit like...
Think of the most horrible thing that can happen to you. You believe that's okay. Oh, hang on a minute. I believe that people are going to be sent to hell. I probably shouldn't say that.
Yeah, you would think that would come up. It's like, this is the equivalent of someone like getting on to a camera and going, religious people are just thick. They're just completely thick. There's nothing to it whatsoever. There's not even like an evolutionary advantage of evolution. It's not even correct in pattern. They're just thick. They're just really dumb people. And then just saying that, and then when your audience says something along the lines of, that's like, it's not just dehumanizing, it's just wrong. Then getting upset and going, oh, I'm going to double down and make another video where I'm going to be like, that's just the way it is. And then being all confident and come on.
I wonder if this video was really prompted by the tweet, or if it was just a case of she really wanted to hit it again after the response to the previous one.
Probably, yeah.
Why are you upset? Why are you upset?
Why am I upset when a bad thing happens to me, or a thing that I consider to be bad? So even if you considered, for a moment, let's say your morality said that beating me over the head with, the statue of Odin behind you is fine.
I don't know how that would come up, but fine.
Let's say that you believe that that's fine. I still don't, therefore I can be upset when you do it.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on anymore.
Just the simple fact that you can look out in the world and recognize evil is a sign that there is God, because how do you know something is bad unless you knew that something was good?
She's just defining God as good.
Bad and good is defined by what I believe to be bad and good.
Yeah.
When I look out in the world and see people shooting each other, I'm not a fan of that. That goes into the category of bad.
Why is it bad?
Because I have empathy for other human beings, and I would really like to not get shot myself.
Basically, you're gonna ground it down into some kind of principled position that you hold for yourself and your community and the people that you love, and that's as far as the buck goes.
Yes,
that's it. That's perfectly sufficient.
And then,
it's a description.
I join a society that holds the similar moral standards to me of not wanting to see people shot.
I mean, what does good mean? Good.
Oh, so many things.
This is it.
So many things.
In this context, I think that saying something is good is that it's affirming or working towards something such as a goal that you have. And saying it's bad is to say that it's against it. That's what good and bad is. So, for example, is it good to punch someone in the face? Depends on the context. In a boxing fight, yeah, it's good.
Yes,
do it.
Yeah.
In the street with a random person, no, it's a bad thing.
When someone tells you they didn't like a particular movie,
yeah,
you probably should be punching them in the face.
You need the context. So, for instance, if we was to say, look, the context here is a utilitarian principle. All right, you know whether or not it's good or bad as to whether or not it maximizes happiness. If you do it on a deontological framework, you know whether or not it's good or bad based on those principles. What Gothics has is, okay, did God say so? It's good if he says yes. It's bad if he didn't. That's it. That's the only metric for morality for this Christian.
What's great on that as well, though, is she's actually passed the buck of morality off to someone else. She holds no moral positions.
None. She's just said, I will follow whatever God says.
Yeah. Which means if she sees someone getting shot in the street, she shouldn't have any emotional response to that whatsoever until she hears from God whether that was a good or bad thing.
Essentially, yeah. Like she has to make these inferences. It's like, what is morality to Gothics? And she's going to say, it's what God says. And it's like, what does God say? God says exactly what my intuition says. So really,
it's convenient,
what's
isn't
right
it? It's
is
really
whatever
convenient.
you just feels right. Yes.
Oh, so you mean it's subjective to her?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Precisely. Absolutely. 100%.
And the Bible even talks about this. The law is written on our hearts.
See?
Also called intuition.
See? Yeah, intuition. See, I told you. I knew it.
And intuition, or your intuitive sort of emotional responses to things are, guess what? Different to the individuals.
Oh, her intuition's so different to the other Christians. Unbelievable.
If she says morality is written on our hearts, how can she disagree that my moral positions are different to hers?
She can't.
She can't. How can she work? If morality is written on our hearts, as she just said, so that means every individual has their own innate understanding of morality, how does she have a different moral position to me? If it's not relative, if it's not subjective.
It is wonderful, isn't it? Because what they are doing...
We would all agree on every moral position. If God commanded and God wrote it, we would all agree on every moral position.
So what you're doing is you're presenting data that contradicts her view.
Yes.
And she has a get out of prison for this easily. Her
Free
intuition's right, yours is wrong.
Which won't make any sense, but I'm sure it'll come down
to
that.
Free will come up, I'm sure.
Without the Bible, we already know what's right and what's wrong. But again, a lot of people choose to suppress it because it doesn't align with the way in which they want to live their life.
I know we're beating a dead horse here, right? But all of these Christian greats are telling you with their intuition, that is to say what's written on their heart, and they have receipts from Scripture, that women are beneath men.
Yeah.
They're telling you it. Augustine, Aquinas, they're telling you that slavery is fine, intuitively, written on their heart. They're giving you receipts from the Bible. And what do we get here? Modern Christians saying, no, what's written on my heart is that women should be equal to men, that slavery is wrong. But you don't come with receipts. You only have your moral intuition. So what's going on here is the Christian is effectively coming up to the atheist and saying, morality is however I feel. That's what they're saying. But we have to go through this riffraff of going, okay, so what is morality to you? Divine command theory. Okay, so God, whatever God commands is right. Okay, putting aside that that's not morality, it's just a divine dictatorship. What is it that God commands? Oh, he commands precisely what is written on your heart, which is to say your intuitions. Not Augustine's, not Aquinas's, not Martin Luther's, your intuitions. This is such bullshit.
I don't know how she can possibly, as she did in that last video, argue against churches that are accepting of LGBT people if morality is written on their hearts.
Yeah.
Because their morality told them that they should be accepting of LGBT people.
Yeah.
How can she argue?
It's subjective.
Gothics, you're lost.
You have nothing.
You're very lost.
Do you remember earlier on when she was saying, listen, you can't argue with someone because they have different views? You're in that position. You're every Christian you talk to. You'll accept that Christians are in this camp, but you won't accept that, say, atheists are. But it's true of all of us. We're just turning up with our intuitions and post hoc rationalizing afterwards. That's what's happening in the vast majority of cases with morality. And if you want a secret hint to why this is the case, despite at bedrock people giving you either deontological ethics or consequentialist ethics, if you come up with the right thought experiment, they will drop both of these and come up with an amalgamation between. It's telling you that it's morality isn't this definitive thing. It's not this thing.
Right. I think we've hammered that nail about as far into the wall as it can possibly go at this point.
Oh yeah, that's well into the crucifix.
We're near the end. Let's see if we can wrap this up.
Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Oh, okay, that is her wrapping it up. So there we go then.
Did you enjoy it?
No, it's frustrating as ever to hear that morality is objective, but it is also intuitively written on our hearts as individuals.
I mean,
every time I hear that it's objective, when they then go into what they mean by that is, oh, it's subjective.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy Gothics, okay, in the sense that, like, I think she's got great charisma. I love the setup. I love the enthusiasm, the energy, but fuck,
She's
is
got
this
a
bollocks.
switch in the background there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love the lighting as well. It reminds me a little bit of Genetically Modified Skeptics setup. But goodness me, not only is she speaking utter bollocks and tripe, she's doing it at the expense of demonizing a minority. And just fuck you. Like, it's not cool.
Is I don't even really care about it being demonizing to a minority. Just demonizing anyone is bad.
I know. I agree with you. Just don't do it. But it's worse to do it to a minority because there's a crap.
It's harder to fight back.
It's harder to fight back, and it just makes people that are already bigoted and stupid even more so. But that's what she needs. She needs the clicks. She needs the views. She needs people to affirm and go, yes, Gothics, yeah, you've really helped me out with your wisdom. I don't know.
We're fighting back with our wisdom and our morality.
There's a rule that's been made, Reese. If you bring me priests up, I'm just going to be a dick. That's the way it works. Okay,
I think that's fair. Do you guys think
is that
fair?
fair? If you bring me priests up, I'm allowed to be a dick. Okay, that's what's happening. And well, what can I say other than that?
Bye.
Bye.